At a family meeting, my parents tried to steal my $750,000 inheritance to pay off my brother's gambling debt. They didn't know I'd already locked every dollar in a trust they could never touch, and I sat back watching their faces fall apart. My name is Claire Jensen. I'm 29F, and the day I watched my own family try to erase my future for the sake of my brother's reckless mistakes, I finally realized something deep. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the wolf they should have feared all along. The part that still burns isn't that they tried to take what was mine. It's that they thought I'd never find out. They sat there at the dining table, wine glasses glinting under the chandelier, wearing the same smug expressions they'd perfected over decades of favoritism. They actually believed I'd hand over my entire inheritance without so much as a second thought. But what they didn't know was that I'd been 10 steps ahead the whole time, and this time, I was done playing nice. A week earlier, I'd gotten a short, cold voicemail from my dad. "Claire, we're having a family meeting on Sunday. 7 p.m., don't be late." No explanation. No details. But his tone said it all. It wasn't a request. It was an ambush. See, my brother Ryan had been spiraling for years, gambling, drinking, crashing cars like it was a hobby. He lost his job, totaled 3 vehicles, and owed money to people who introduced themselves with names like Nails and Razor. Yet somehow, despite his endless failures, he was always the golden child, the precious son who could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the independent one, the one who moved out early, built a career, paid her own bills, and dared to live without constant validation from mom and dad. In their eyes, that made me cold, difficult, and ungrateful. But everything changed when my grandmother passed away last year, the only person in the family who ever saw me for who I really was. She left me everything. Not Ryan. Not my parents. Me. Her entire estate, worth $750,000 plus a house and several investments, was transferred under my name. Grandma always told me I had a heart strong enough to stand alone, and her will reflected that. When the news broke, my family exploded. My parents tried to contest it. Ryan had a full-blown meltdown, but the will was ironclad. Grandma had worked with a ruthless estate lawyer who sealed every legal crack. Still, I knew my family. They'd never stop. They'd wait for the perfect moment to strike, hoping I'd be too soft to fight back. So, I made sure that when that moment came, I'd already won. Before the meeting, I quietly moved every penny of my inheritance into a private trust. Not just any trust, but a legally reinforced fortress no one could access but me. Even if I died, it wouldn't go to them. My trustee was my best friend Dana, who hated my family with Olympic-level passion and would rather chew nails than hand them a dime. By the time Sunday arrived, I was ready. I dressed in black, because in a way, I was attending a funeral. The death of whatever illusion of family we still pretended to have. Ryan answered the door, eyes bloodshot, reeking of whiskey. He grinned crookedly, acting like he was doing me a favor by existing. "Claire, glad you could make it," he slurred. I brushed past him without a word. Mom and Dad were already seated at the dining table like mafia bosses plotting their next move. "Claire," my mother began, her voice syrupy sweet, "we've been talking, and there's something important we need to discuss about your inheritance." Of course. The same fake warmth she used when she wanted something. Dad took over, his voice stern. "Ryan's in trouble. Real trouble. He owes dangerous people a lot of money. We need to act fast to protect him." I just stared at them. My silence made them fidget. Mom pressed on. "Your inheritance is just sitting there. It could solve everything. You'd still have the house, and Ryan could get the help he needs." "How much?" I asked calmly. Dad's eyes lit up like he'd already won. "About 600,000. Maybe more." "So, all of it," I replied flatly. Mom forced a nervous laugh. "Don't be dramatic. You don't need all that money, Claire. Not like Ryan does." I looked over at my brother, who was picking his nails like none of this concerned him. "And what happens when he burns through this too?" I asked. Silence. That told me everything I needed to know. "You know what's funny?" I said slowly. I actually expected this. They looked confused. I smiled. Last week, I transferred every cent into a private trust. You can't touch a single dollar. Ryan shot up, his chair scraping the floor. You did what? I protected what Grandma gave me, I said coldly. You think she left it to me by accident? She knew exactly who you were. Dad's face flushed red. You ungrateful little. No. I cut him off. I'm done. Done pretending I owe you anything. Done watching you worship Ryan while treating me like a wallet with a pulse. Mom's eyes watered. Claire, please. He's your brother. Then maybe you should have raised him better. I turned and walked out without another word. Behind me, the air was thick with stunned silence and shattered entitlement. When I got home, I poured a glass of wine, sat on my balcony, and laughed. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the disappointment. I was the storm, and they had no umbrella. I thought that after the confrontation, they'd finally back off. Maybe reflect. Maybe feel shame. But I should have known better. The next morning, my phone lit up with 43 missed calls from Mom, Dad, even Ryan, who hadn't texted me in months unless he needed money. My email overflowed with dramatic subject lines. You're being selfish. Your grandmother would be ashamed. Family comes first. They tried every emotional manipulation tactic they could muster.
Guilt. Shame.
Obligation. But that version of me, the peacekeeper, the people pleaser, the one who bit her tongue until it bled, she died the day Grandma did. For 2 days, I stayed silent. Then, on the third day, a certified letter arrived. My father's signature scrawled boldly across the front. Inside was a formal request to transfer $600,000 from the trust for the protection of the Jensen family legacy. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my soup. But then I saw the last page, a petition to have me declared mentally unfit to manage my own assets. Their plan was to get the court to appoint them as temporary trustees. They weren't just trying to steal my money. They wanted to legally strip me of control over my own life. That night, I called Dana. She answered with a smirk in her voice. Let me guess, the vultures are circling? You have no idea, I said. It's time to go nuclear. She chuckled. I was hoping you'd say that. What my family didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Every call, every message, every threat. Even that ridiculous letter. And then I sent it all to Grandma's lawyer, Mr. Rowland, who had come out of retirement just for me. 3 days later, he filed a cease and desist against my parents for attempted financial coercion, harassment, and fraud. But that wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel it, so I invited them to another family meeting. This time, at the house Grandma left me, the one they'd always called too old-fashioned and too beneath them. I told them I had news about the trust. They arrived 20 minutes early, dressed like they were attending a victory party. Mom even hugged me. We're so glad you're seeing reason, she purred. Oh, I'm seeing something, I replied with a smile. They sat on Grandma's old velvet couch while Ryan prowled around restlessly, looking like a shadow of himself. Then I dropped the envelope on the coffee table. This is a cease and desist from my lawyer, I said coolly. Any further attempts to contact me about the trust, my inheritance, or Ryan's debts will result in a lawsuit. Criminal charges are also on the table. Dad's face turned red. You can't be serious. Dead serious, I said. And just so you know, I filed a counter-petition. If you try to question my mental fitness again, I'll make sure every voicemail you sent me becomes public record, including the one where you called me a cold-hearted and said you wished Grandma had left everything to Ryan. Ryan jumped up. You're really gonna let me get hurt? You think you're better than us? I took a deep breath. No, Ryan. I know I'm better. Because I didn't blow every chance I had. I didn't treat people like ATMs. I didn't waste every bit of love this family ever had cleaning up my own messes. Dad roared. We're your parents. You owe us everything. I looked him dead in the eye.
No.
What I owe, I already paid. Years of silence. Years of enduring favoritism. Years of being the villain in a story you wrote to protect your own pride. I'm paid in full. Now I'm free. I walked to the front door, opened it wide, and said, "You're not welcome here. Not in this house. Not in my life." They just stared at me, frozen. So I added the final blow. "Grandma knew exactly who you were. That's why she left it all to me." Then I slammed the door. Outside, I heard them shouting. Ryan kicked the steps. Dad swore loudly. Mom started crying. But inside, I poured myself another glass of wine, turned on the music, and smiled. For the first time, I felt untouchable. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the storm, the heir to a legacy built on strength, not guilt. And they would never touch a cent of it again. They came to steal my future with greed in their eyes. But they left with nothing, except the sound of a door I'll never open for them again. Like this story? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it helps immensely, and it keeps incredible stories like this coming your way.